We'll get to the hope. I hope you have some hope.
Yeah.
The most challenging thing is, in my opinion, is just getting the people to come together on any issue, which was what we've been talking about.
So the patriots on the left and the patriots on the right have to unite. Political spectrum, politics as usual. Let's win on these massive issues, these major issues, so we regain our freedom.
Cenk had a nearly 3-hour-long conversation with Shawn Ryan on his podcast. He's a former Navy SEAL and not on the left. However, they had a lengthy discussion about how the left and the right can unite to change our political system because it's not representing any of us. Cenk, your 2 cents.
So Shawn had a powerful analogy in that interview. He talked about how our house is on fire, and we can't really talk about anything else until we put out the fire. I couldn't agree more with that. If you say that we should not unite to get money out of politics, that is a very curious position. So let's dive into the interview and see what we find.
Well, I mean, look, with any long form conversation, Cenk is definitely going to talk about money in politics, and you're going to get a lot of that in this discussion with Shawn Ryan. Here's a little taste.
Every time mainstream media, when they do that unity, they celebrate, oh, bipartisan unity, right? And what do they split you on? Things that you actually agree on. So an example I use is paid family leave. So mom's getting 12 weeks off after they have a baby. Well, 84%, where's the question? We can't get it passed. Why can't we get it passed? Because they're all full of shit. They all work for their donors. Most of the donors are corporate, but now, as we know, famously, there's one foreign government that is, in the last cycle, the biggest donor of all, and that's Israel. And so when you lose your sovereignty to a corporation, that's already a big problem. But when you lose it to a foreign government, that's a problem that I cannot accept.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we are now a proxy.
Yeah.
The United States seems like it is now a proxy. And that, to me, is terrifying.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because we knew that our government was occupied by moneyed interests. But once you realize just how much sway a foreign country has over your government, to the point where your government will work against the American people at the behest of that foreign government, you got to do what it takes to change that system. And so, oh no, you're talking to a right winger. Who cares? We live under the same government, under the same political system, and it needs to change. It's not serving anybody.
Look, guys, I'm super encouraged by a development here, both on Shawn's show and on Tucker Carlson's show when I talk to him, and almost every show I go on now. We're not leaving it at just Israel. It's because Israel is not the original problem. Israel is a consequence of the original problem. The original problem is money in politics. Once you allow for bribery, everyone will bribe your politicians. So, and now when I talk about that, that's what I refer to as the Great Awakening. And people are beginning to go, oh, right, wait, why can't we negotiate drug prices? That's super weird, right? That's certainly not a free market. That doesn't make any sense at all. So, the reason we need the Great Awakening and all of us noticing what's happening here is because almost all of national media works to make sure that you don't notice and that you stay asleep. So they never talk about the donor class and their effect on all of this legislation, and yes, including Israel. And the reason why Israel wakes us up clearer is because it's inexcusable to have a foreign government in charge of our government. And everyone knows that. And they can't lie their way out of it. We can now all see it. So their lies become even more glaring. And then you begin to realize, oh, they're also lying about big pharma and big oil and the defense contractors, and how all of our politicians are not at all honest. They're the most immoral people in the country, and they sell us out to any donor that walks by.
What I thought was interesting in regard to the reaction or response to your appearance on Shawn Ryan's podcast is that, a few days prior to him dropping the entire episode, he promoted it with a short clip. And the people attacking you, I mean, I'm sure there were people on the left attacking you. I didn't see much of it, to be fair. Most of the attacks, though, came from neoconservatives, the neocons. And they were livid that Shawn Ryan would have you on his podcast because nothing scares the neocons more, nothing angers them, nothing makes them quake in their boots more than the left and the right coming together and acknowledging what the real problem is, that the corruption in our political system needs to stop, that the control that a foreign country has over our government needs to end.
Yeah, so look, guys, it's interesting because if you're on the left, certainly if you're a progressive, money in politics has been the #1 issue. We all recognize it's the #1 issue. We should be proud that we're the side that has been emphasizing that for decades, right? Now, these guys, they're not faking it. They when they disagree with us, they're not unclear about it. They're super clear about
Very
it,
clear,
right?
yeah.
So they're saying you guys are right. Money in politics is the cancer, and we've got to end. It turns out that's the corruption. That's the swamp. Yes, that's what we've been waiting for all this time. So what's interesting is that on the right, the Trump loyalists go, no way, no. Well, I think you thought you guys wanted to drain the swamp, right?
They're not even Trump loyalists. Right now, the MAGA base consists of the neocons, many of whom were never Trumpers earlier.
Yeah, no, it's a mix because there's Trump loyalists who watch Fox News who are older. So
Sure.
It's a combination of the neocons, et cetera. On the left, the people opposing unity are also, uniparty establishment Democrats, et cetera, but also some on the, I don't know what part of the political spectrum they're on anymore, that are say, no, I'm so partisan, I don't even want to get money out of politics if it means I have to lower myself to talk to Shawn Ryan, Tucker Carlson, et cetera. And I think that's deeply selfish, and I think that misses the point, and you can't get money out of politics without an amendment, and an amendment needs 34 states. So we literally cannot do it without the right wing and the left wing joining forces. If you're opposed to that, you're saying let's stay in corruption forever.
Right, I mean, look, I think that there are people who are doing okay, even in a corrupt political system. They might be affluent, they might come from money, whatever it is. And so politics for them, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone who's affluent, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But for those who think, no, my personal political branding and purity is more important than actually accomplishing what we need to get accomplished to fix our system. The reason why they take it that way is because the political system's been working out okay for them, okay?
They don't need a lot of change.
Yeah,
they don't want a constitutional amendment or a constitutional convention. Don't forget, Noble Mobile's saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back. Sorry, you need 34 states to propose on. You need 38 states to ratify it. You can't possibly get there on just Democrats or just Republicans.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you're not for unifying on money in politics, you're literally saying, I'm totally fine with this broken system.
So let's talk about how that broken system has been able to continue. When you have a divided electorate, when the American people have bought into the toxicity that's thrown at us again and again by our politicians and the media that provides cover for them, you get manufactured culture wars, you get division. We're too busy fighting each other to look up. Take a look.
Wait a minute. So everyone on the right wing has to agree to 100% of this agenda, and everyone on the left wing has to agree to 100% of this agenda. Well, which robot would agree with 100% of any agenda? No, we're all human beings. We have different opinions, right? So,
Isn't it like 44% is the silent majority?
yeah, and now independents are larger than both the Republicans and the Democrats. So when they try to get you to follow any ideology 100%, you know it's a trap. You know that it's a thing that's meant to get you to fight the other side and to divide the country. Because once the country is divided among Republicans and Democrats, but the donors are funding both, it's perfect. The guys with all the money, the donor class, that's who's rigging the rules. That's who's got the power, and they love dividing us. So don't fall into the trap. Make sure that on the key issues, war, foreign governments, corruption, we stay united as a country and we protect that flag.
You just said it, that the independent voting bloc, the silent majority, outnumbers the Democrats and the Republicans. I mean, right there, the answer lies within that. There's the data. That's what we need. That's how we do it.
So just to put actual numbers behind that, a January Gallup poll found that 45%, a new high of 45% in the US identify as political independents.
Yeah, and notice, by the way, that you almost never hear about them in the press. Isn't that weird? Like that they're larger than the Republicans and Democrats. I hear about the Republicans and Democrats nonstop. What do Republican voters think? What do Democratic voters think? Like, independents are a ghost, because if you began to realize that most of the country at this point is independents, then it makes it harder for everyone to fight.
That's a really great point.
Right? Yeah. So they've got to get them to fight. And if people realize, hey, wait, a lot of us are in the middle and we believe in some of this and some of that. So that the point I was making about the 100%. But on the other hand, if you get people to believe that you have to believe in this ideology without any deviation, or this ideology, well, that's so rigid you can't ever come to a compromise.
Exactly.
You're forced to fight.
That's exactly right.
And independents are breaking that myth, and that's why mainstream media hates them.
So Shawn Ryan had some interesting things to say about what actually does unite the American people. And he noticed something that I think you and I noticed a long time ago. And I think it's the one silver lining in the hellscape that we exist in. So let's take a look at what Shawn had to say and we'll discuss it.
I think more people are becoming politically homeless, and I think we're all kind of seeing that. I think the biggest thing on the 2028 ticket will be Israel, but and it's something that a lot of people are uniting on. AIPAC, their influence, the Iran war, Gaza, now Turkey, Lebanon. If we want any change at all, we're going to have to come together, because we can bat back and forth like abortion and trans issues and taxes. I mean, those issues are just going to be batted back and forth until the end of time. Yep. Abortion's illegal, abortion's legal, whatever. It's never going to end. And they use that to divide us, the race. I think more people are starting to look past that. I think the race card was overplayed a lot, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are seeing that and realize maybe it wasn't as bad as everybody made it out to be. And I think that's happening with a lot of issues. And that is giving me hope. Hey, we were lied to. This is over embellished, or some things weren't embellished enough. And people are coming together, and everybody's looking, like, not everybody, but a lot of people are looking for the real solution.
Cenk, so the full episode dropped yesterday, and I hadn't watched it until last night. And that part with Shawn reminded me of something I said on The T, which is a podcast out of the UK. And so I just want to quickly show that part of it, and then we'll discuss it, because I think he's on point. Take a look. Identitarianism and the differences in race, the differences in gender, the differences in all of these things that are immutable and we can't change. And honestly, the way that it was talked about pit everyone against each other. So you don't have a coalition even on the left. You have people who are obsessed with their own personal identity more than anything else. So yes, racism does exist. That does need to be at the intersection of the class battle. Anyone who denies that is just living in a fantasy world. However, when you, and this has been a really big problem, when you uplift or you prioritize how different and fractured we are from one another, when your politics becomes about not class war, but your own personal grievances, all you're gonna do is cause fights, and that's what you see on the left constantly. Everyone's fighting each other, broken coalitions, fracturing, and basically where we're at today, which is nowhere. We have Trump, a complete buffoon, elected for the second time, destroying not just our country, but the globe as we speak. So it's not to say that, these issues of hatred, bigotry don't exist. They do exist. The question is, do you allow these debates about our personal identity to fracture coalitions and be like front and center of every discussion that you have. Because I think that framing, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional. Okay, I have my own theories, but I won't get into that. I mean, think about 2020 through 2023. The left was constantly fighting each other. Coalitions were constantly being broken and fractured over identity or identitarian issues. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's I hate it, and I don't hate it just from the left or the right. So if the left overfocus on it, I think to a point of division, I'm worried that they do. But does the right overfocus on it? Of course they do.
Yes.
Right. So we're not saying just to one side or the other. We're saying to both sides. And the right wing, if you're worried about left wing's identity politics, well, brother, then you can't do your own identity politics. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so now, but the good news is the Shawn Ryans and the Tucker Carlsons of the world are basically saying truce. Yes, okay. Now you could say I don't believe him, whatever, you could do, have all your skepticism, but they're telling their millions of followers truce. Let's not go get into that crap. And then sometimes people say, wow, you have the privilege of being able to say that because you're not this or that. Brother, I come from a Muslim background, right? And so there's been nothing but massive anti-Muslim propaganda and hatred my entire lifetime growing up. And so would I work with someone who is anti-Muslim to get money out of politics? Of course I would. First of all, as a person who grew up Muslim, you don't have a choice anyway. If you were gonna find coalitions of only people who didn't hate Muslims, your coalition have been 13 people in some years, right? So I feel like some people have privilege that they're so unused to criticism, right? And unused to having to get past those obstacles that they feel like, well, you've hurt my feelings slightly, so that's it, I'm out. No, we don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
Let's go make deals on the most important things and put out the fire in our house.
I totally agree.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.